world founded upon four essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world.
The freedom of human rights everywhere. For this faith the democracies took up arms. For this faith they stood against the might of Hitler's mechanized divisions. But on June 22nd, 1940, an anxious world watched France, conquered and helpless, send her delegates to Compiègne to sue for peace. 6:50 p.m. 3 men signed the armistice terms, and for beaten France, the war is over. But for Britain and the nation standing with her, the supreme trial is yet to come. From now on, the battlefield is the whole world. More vital to Britain than at any time in her history, now become the great highways of the seven seas. For if Britain is to turn retreat to siege, and siege to final attack, she must be fed, must obtain metals for her mills, chemicals for her explosive plants, foodstuffs for her people's armies. So as England mobilizes her worldwide reserves, another war of movement opens, the movement of fleets of merchant ships guarded by lean destroyers across the ocean routes. All important in this strategy of supply become far-off naval strongpoints. Into Gibraltar, Malta, Port Said move British battleships, their giant guns keeping open the gateways of the Mediterranean. At the great base of Singapore, guarding the crossroads of the East, new air squadrons appear overnight to protect the convoys assembling below. Even the hills of Hong Kong echo to the roar of motors as the air patrols sweep out across the China Sea in search of commerce raiders. From ports in the four corners of the globe, great ships like the Queen Mary and the Queen Elizabeth slip quietly away to sea, their destination unknown. Behind this strange sea war lies a single purpose. Far across the world, the nations of the British Commonwealth labored long months, mobilizing their armed strength. Today, these young and powerful nations throw their full weight into the struggle against tyranny. Above the cities of Australia, patrol pilots look down upon humming munitions plants, while far up country, where men work in the smell of the gum trees, cattlemen and farmer alike labor to feed Britain 14,000 miles away. Southward again, where the mountains lift their heads from the ocean to the Southern Cross, New Zealand pledges her entire output of wool and meat to England, brings every inch of land into use to increase her flocks. Beneath cloud-capped Table Mountain, the minesweepers clear the seas for ships northward bound from Cape Town. And from the fields of Oran, South Africa mobilizes one of the most deadly weapons of modern war, gold. And where the eastern capes of Canada meet the broad Atlantic, the convoys steam out from the New World to the Old. Behind them lies a nation in full productive power, a nation so rich in metals that her mines alone may well prove a decisive factor. A nation of craftsmen, skilled and swift in the precision demanded by high-speed mobile war. A nation whose care in the management of natural wealth is now being repaid 100-fold, whose forests can supply the war needs of the whole Commonwealth, whose wheat fields can feed the world. are the men and women of the young nations spread from the Arctic Circle to the southern seas, now devoting all their energies to the tasks of war, but with their eyes fixed on the hope of the world beyond. The people of Canada, voting nearly $2 billion of their wealth in 1 year alone as their share of the cost. The people of South Africa, finding a new unity under the leadership of their great Prime Minister, Jan Christian Smuts. The people of Australia and New Zealand, seeing to it that once again the Anzacs will be there. These are the people of whom Adolf Hitler said, "They are just country yokels who do not know what the war is all about." As the Second World War spreads ever further afield, the men of the British Commonwealth well know that theirs is a double role, that in addition to supporting Britain, they must man their own home front, for none can tell when or in which quarter of the world the next blow will fall. Northward through the Blue Mountains march Australian regiments, northward to where the Pacific surf beats on a subtropical coastline. For here, Australia faces an invasion threat almost as serious as the menace to Britain herself. On the high belt of South Africa, transport planes take aboard their full complement of men. For South Africa's front line lies 2,000 miles away on the borders of Kenya. Stationed here and watching for a renewed attempt at an Axis drive through Africa are 50,000 of these crack South African troops, resourceful fighters, skilled in the tactics of the desert. Far to the northward, where the rays of the aurora move like green searchlights in the sky, troop ships from Canada nose their way into the unknown harbors of Iceland. Working 20 hours a day, the Canadian forces convert the forbidding shoreline into a Gibraltar of the North, an advanced base of the New World's battlefront, meeting the Nazi threat from France and Norway in mid-Atlantic. And into the deserts of the Near East, into Palestine, Egypt, the Sudan, march men from the Antipodes and from India. For they know that Germany's drive through the Balkans towards Suez is only a means to the final conquest of their own land. So they close in, meeting advance with advance on battlefronts the world over. Today, the nations of the Commonwealth pool their resources for another vital task. From Sydney and Wellington are sailing thousands of young airmen to train with their Canadian comrades. At Vancouver's docks, the picked youth of Australia and New Zealand are welcomed by the head of Canada's giant air training plan, Air Minister Charles Gavin Power.
Men of Australia, in the name of the Government of Canada, I greet you and I welcome you to this dominion.
In the boundless skies of Canada, 35,000 men a year prepare to man the air fleets now pouring from British production lines, trained not only to throw an impenetrable shield around the coasts of England, but to attack and devastate the nerve centers of Germany's war machine. Meanwhile, the most powerful of all the younger nations of the world, the people of the U.S.A., unites behind their third-term president in the cause of freedom.
We must be the great arsenal of democracy. For us, this is an emergency as serious as war itself.
As the United States announces its determined policy of all aid to Britain, over the border into Canada goes a stream of planes, part of the 85% of all American aircraft production now crossing the Atlantic to frontline British bases. Preparing to defend her own soil if need be, the U.S. makes every able-bodied man liable for 1 year's service with the colors, and creates from this gigantic reserve a combat army of 1.5 million men. And while these citizen soldiers train in camps throughout the land, the American people order Production Chief William S. Knutson to drive ahead with a 5-year arms program scheduled to cost $35 billion. In the great plants of America, the men who yesterday made farm implements and linotypes, cash registers and lawn mowers are today making tanks and fuses, bombs and rangefinders, periscopes and Tommy guns. Down the ways of U.S. shipyards goes a new warship in every 12 days, ships to create a navy on 2 oceans, for America realizes that should the Royal Navy fail, her own fleet might have to face the combined strength of 4 major powers. So the United States, like the nations of the Commonwealth, prepares for the unseen years ahead. Today, Britain's sister nations are justly proud of their record in the Second World War. Never will New Zealand forget the day when the nation greeted its cruiser Achilles back from the River Plate, where she left behind her the smoking wreck of the Graf Spee, one of Germany's most powerful battleships. Long in Australia's history will live June 19, 1940, when the Sydney, cruising in the eastern Mediterranean, engaged 2 Italian warships, each of her own size. Swiftly the Sydney closes in, and within a few minutes one of her opponents is in full flight, belching smoke to protect her from the cannonade. Stubbornly the remaining Italian ship fights on, but the Sydney's gunners have her range. Within 2 hours, the Bartolomeo Colleone, afire from stem to stern, is helpless and sinking. And in the years to come, men from many lands will look back upon the campaign in the deserts of Libya, when outnumbered by more than 2 to 1, they swept across the hot sand, storming fortress after fortress, on which years of careful preparation had been spent, reducing Mussolini's much-vaunted army of North Africa to endless lines of war-weary prisoners. In 1941, for every man of the forces of the Dominions who has already seen service in this war, 100 others are on their way, determined that now, for all time, the rights of free men to live and work in peace shall be won. Firmly they stand, these men of the young democracies, in the path of Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. For they foresee, when the smoke of battle clears, a new destiny opening before their eyes, a new world where tyranny and destruction will no more be seen. We look forward to a world founded on 4 freedoms. The first is freedom of speech everywhere in the world. The second is freedom to worship God everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want. The fourth is freedom from fear everywhere in the world. So speak the young nations of the earth, now marching with fixed and single purpose to win the supremacy of individual rights for all men.